I just recorded the first 3 minutes of that video, and then the tripod fell over, stopped the video, and I was like, okay, I'll save it. And I pressed the no volume button, so I saved it with no volume, so now I have to start over again. Hey guys, it's Isabella here. Welcome back to my channel. If you can't tell, I am in a different location than I normally am. That's because my desk is very messy and I don't feel like cleaning it. So I'm in my bed, and so that also means I'm joined by all of my animal friends. Because I'm actually a child and I have 6 stuffed animals up here with me right now. Anyway, if you can't tell the title of the video, this isn't a cosplay story time, which is what I normally do. I never thought I'd be doing an out of cosplay story time just because I was like, my regular life isn't that interesting. But here we go. So, let me just say I take Ubers a lot because I'm on campus and I don't have a car. It's my first year. Okay, I'm recording again. So, where was I? I Uber a lot because I live on campus. Freshmen don't have cars or first year of campus. I can take the bus to most places, but not to all places. One of the places I can't take the bus is my voice teacher's house. I have voice lessons once a week, and so I normally take a Uber to the lesson and back from the lesson because I can't take the bus there and I don't want to walk for an hour and a half. So this Uber ride happened on the way back from the lesson. So what happened was I called the Uber, and then the first thing that happens is he's driving really fast, and she lives in a neighborhood, so the speed limit's 25, but he was zipping, let me say, and he swerved into the driveway to get me, and then I went around the back to check the license plate because always do that, stay safe. And he was like, "Are you Isabella?" I was like, "Yes, that's me." And he was like, "Great." He pressed the button to start the ride because that's what Ubers have to do. Then as he's pulling out of the driveway, he's like, "You have a nice house." And I was like, "Oh, well, I just had a music lesson here." Normally when I say, "Oh, I had a music lesson," people go, "Oh, that's cool. I can't sing," or "I sing," and then the conversation ends. What happened when I said I had a music lesson is he was like, "Oh, will you sing something now?" And I was like, "No, I don't really feel like singing now." And he was like, oh, okay. And then he was like, "If that you had a lesson, that means you're going back home now." And I was going back home, but I didn't want to say I was because I was feeling a little uncomfortable. So I was like, "No, I actually have a class." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And then he asked me, "Do you live alone?" And I said, "No, I live with 3 other people." And he said, "Well, if you're a student, that means you're not living with your family, so you have 3 roommates." And I was like, "Yeah, I have 3 roommates." A little uncomfortable. Normally the drivers don't talk that much. Normally they say hi and bye, my experience. So he was asking all these questions about who I lived with. He was like, "You're not your family." And then he asked, "Do you go to church?" And I was like, in my head, I used to go to church, but I don't go to church anymore. So I said I used to, I did sometimes. And he was like, "Why don't you go to church anymore?" And I saw the thing in the car where you have your mirror. He had a cross hanging, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be when one of my uncles is like, "Isabella, you should go to church, be thankful." No, it wasn't. He was very persistent. I said, "Oh, I don't go to church anymore because I don't want to walk alone." And he was like, "Well, you don't have to walk alone, I'll drive you." And I thought he meant as an Uber, I could get an Uber to go to church every weekend. And I was like, "Well, that gets expensive." He was like, "No, I'll just drive you." Him personally would drive me to church every weekend. And I was like, "Oh no, that's totally fine, it's okay." And he's like, "There's a church that's close to the class you're going to." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, really?" He's like, "Yeah, there is. You can go there." So he told me there's a church by the place where my class is at, which is actually where I live. And I was like, "Yeah, probably not." He was like, "You should go to church and sing in the choir. You should go to church and sing." And I was like, well, you know, I really don't want to. I'm really busy. And he was like, you need to thank God for the gift he gave you. And I'm sitting in the back of this car, very uncomfortable at this point, because he asked a lot of questions about where I lived, and now he's drilling me on going to church, which is not really the kind of conversation that I want to have with my Uber driver when I just wanted to sit in the car in silence for 8 minutes because I have my AirPods in. Like, what? Anyway, he was like, you have to go to church, you have to thank God for your gifts. There are two kinds of things in this world. There's black and there's white. There's good and there's bad. There are children of God and children of Satan. You don't want to be a child of Satan, do you? He said that to me. He said that I shouldn't be a child of Satan. He said, just go to church. God gives you so much. You have 6 days of the week. I hate roommates. Sorry for all the interruptions. You know, you don't want to be a child of Satan. God gives you 6 days. You give 1 day for God. You give Sunday to God. I go to church from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. every Sunday, but you can just go for an hour and sing with the choir. And I was like, yeah, not really like talking at that point. I was like, yeah, that's cool, or you're right, like along with what he was saying. And I had pulled up, you know, Apple has a like little help button thingy on your phone that you can press, like if you're like, I need help, there's a button I can press and hold so that Uber's tracking my ride and it knows where I'm going. I had my finger on it because I've felt uncomfortable. He offered to drive me to church. He wanted to know who I lived with, and then he was telling me I was a child of Satan. I was like, this is really fantastic. So we finally get back to my dorm where I said I had a class. There are technically classes there, so I was like, that works. And then he talked about being a child of Satan for a very long time. He just kept saying that I'm not appreciating what God gave me and that I don't want to go to hell. And I was just like, okay, thank you, sir. And I like was ready to leave. I got out of the car. I was like, thank you, have a nice day, because I'm not rude. I didn't want to be like, you know, whatever. And when I was going to leave, he said, wait, can I take a picture of you to remember you? And like, that was like weird to me. There's never been an instance when someone has asked to take a picture of me, like as myself, like in costume, like maybe like if this were like an Uber to a con or back from a con, like, can I take a picture of you in your costume? No, I was literally wearing my pajama pants, like my fun florally ones. I'll put a picture up here. I was wearing my fun, like, florally pajama pants because I didn't want to get dressed, and I was wearing a black turtleneck. Like, no makeup, my hair was down, I had my headphones in the entire time. He asked to take a picture of me so he could remember me, and I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable with that. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I'll see you again. And I was like, I hope not. So I get out of the car and, like, run inside, like low-key run inside, because I didn't want him to take a picture of me like getting out. Like I was like holding my thing, I like looked down because like I didn't want that to happen. So I got back inside to my dorm and I was like, oh my god, what just happened? Is that real? That sounds like one of the stories that you'd find like a video online about of someone talking about their horrible experience. And I was like, oh, I can make a video on my horrible experience because that's what it was. And I told my roommate, Isha, I was like, Isha, this was terrible. She was like, yeah, you need to report him. Gave him 0 stars. I reported him. I was like, that's no bueno. Anyway, do you think I was overreacting? Because, like, I don't know if this is overreacting or not. I don't think I was overreacting. I think I was right to do what I did. I feel like it was a really uncomfortable situation and I shouldn't have been put in it in the first place. But maybe I was overreacting. I don't know. Leave a comment down below if you think I was overreacting or not to thinking this situation was weird. Thank you so much for watching the Storytime video. I hope you enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy the experience. Looking back at it, I'm kind of like, was that real? Was it real? It was real. The trip is saved on my app saying that it happened, so it had to have been real. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please don't forget to leave a like. Comment down below if you've had any like crazy Uber stories, or if you think I am really overreacting or really not overreacting. What would you have done if you were in my situation? Thank you guys so much. Bye!